Today, we're going to start with our first speaker. Her name is Sheree Havlik, and I've had the privilege of working with her in the CPLC for the last 7-8 years. Sheree has worked at Raytheon Corporation for 28 years as an engineer and as a manager. She has also served as the director of the Speakers Bureau for the Catholic Pro-Life Committee of North Texas since 1994, and she has represented the Catholic Church's pro-life, pro-family views at the United Nations and other national and international conferences. She has developed Respect Life programs, including those on chastity and abstinence, which she presents to the youth and adult groups. She's also authored a book called Because We Love Them, Fostering a Christian Sexuality in Our Children, which is also available here today. Sheree and her husband, Joe, have 4 children and 5 grandchildren. Please join me in welcoming Sheree Havlik.
This is one of those stories that we all think, you know, not my child, somebody else's. I had done a presentation in a school, and it was 9th graders. There was probably about 50, 60 kids in the class. We do this activity that includes eating chips and spitting in water and stuff like that to kind of show how STDs are spread very quickly. And so we mix these glasses of water with spit and chips and stuff in them. So after every presentation, I have to go wash my hands. I did the presentation, and the restroom was just right next door to the classroom. So I went next door because I had, 2 more presentations that day to do. So I go next door to wash my hands, and a young girl followed me into the restroom. And it was one of those semi-round sinks, that you can stand multiple people around. So I'm standing at one side of the sink, and she walks over to the other side, and she turns on the water and just starts washing her hands and just standing there looking at me. And so I'm thinking, okay, this is a little bit strange, but so I just kind of made small talk. How are you? Just trying to make a little small talk with her. And I finished washing my hands, and I walked over to the blow dryer, the hand dryer, and she walks over and she follows me and starts drying her hands, puts her hands like right above mine and starts drying her hands at the same time. And so I know something is going on, and she is still just looking at me. And so finally I just said, is everything okay? And she says, can I ask you a question? And I said, certainly. And she says, if somebody is raped and they get an STD, is it their fault? And so immediately I knew, what had happened and what she was going through. And I said, no, absolutely not. And I said, first of all, rape is never a person's fault, whether there's an STD involved or not. Rape is never a person's fault. And at this time, somebody else walked into the restroom, and when the blow dryer went off, she pushes on the blow dryer again so that the noise is drowning out our talking. And then I said, and of course the STD, that would definitely not be the person's fault. And I said, and, rape is just a horrible, horrible crime that is not a person's fault. And and she couldn't even hardly look at me. And so I said, do you know someone that this has happened to? I mean, I knew, but, just kind of trying to get her to talk a little bit. And she started to talk, and she couldn't talk, and she just kind of nodded her head. And, of course I knew. And so I told her, and of course by this time the other girl was coming out of the restroom and over to wash her hands. So, I had about 3 minutes under this blow dryer to try to give this young girl back her self-respect. And I told her, nobody can take away your gift of sexuality. Nobody can take your dignity unless you let them. Take back your dignity. You still have a very special gift that you can give. And that was about all the time that we had. I'd like to say that this is unusual. I get a lot of evaluation forms that say, my first time I was forced. This is what our kids are up against. Now, is this everybody? No, it's not. There's a lot that kids are just doing. But this girl, this is someone's daughter. This is someone that is in someone's classroom. She goes to someone's church. And not only that, but there's a boy involved here. That boy is someone's son. That boy is in someone's classroom, in someone's church. And that's why we all have to work together. Just as we said of the name of this conference, we all have to work together to help our youth. There is the other side of that. I was in another classroom. I happened to have a few minutes left at the end of the class, and so I was asking the class about pressures. You know, what kind of pressures do y'all have? And all the students just kind of sat there. This was 9th and 10th graders together. And they just kind of sit there and shrugged. And I said, well, don't you have a lot of pressures? Are people pressuring each other to have sex? And they're like, no, not really. And of course, I've been doing this for 15 years, and you know, Terry and several other people, I mean, we all go out and we do these talks, and I'm thinking, wow, we are doing a fantastic job. You know, we have solved this in the Dallas area. And so I'm really starting to get excited. And so I said, really, you don't have any pressures? And, you know, you're not pressuring each other to have sex? And they're like, no, not really. So I have to build up my, you know, my own self, and I say, oh, well, now, why do you think that is? You know, expecting them to say, because you guys are doing a great job. Well, that's not really a reality, but so I said, you know, why is that? And nobody would kind of answer, and so I kind of waited, you know, because if you give them long enough, somebody will speak up. And finally, this one girl just says, there's no pressure because everybody just does it. Now, I always like to tell the kids that genital herpes is my favorite STD. And the kids think it's funny. And then you go into the commercials and you talk about this Valtrex commercial where this couple is so loving and so beautiful, and they just look so neat together, and they're riding horses along the beach, or they're sitting in a hammock and they're looking at each other so lovingly. By the way, I have genital herpes. Yeah, isn't that romantic? I think it's so romantic that they can, you know, be so intimate and know that the other one has an STD that they will catch. And if you ever listen to the commercial, it says, by the way, Valtrex does not stop the spread of the disease. Valtrex will not keep you from spreading genital herpes, and you can spread genital herpes even if you're not having an outbreak. But it's okay because they really love each other, and Valtrex is going to protect them, even though it says right in the commercial it doesn't protect them. And it just, and people are thinking that it's okay as long as you take Valtrex, even though you can still get genital herpes, and you can still spread it even if you're not having an outbreak. Well, so that's just my favorite STD, because those people are so beautiful and so in love, it just makes you want to get genital herpes so that you can be so beautiful and so in love. So that's what society does. What did God make woman from? Remember in the Garden of Eden, there was man, and so what did he use? He used a rib. Okay, so he used a rib. He didn't use the eyes, a hand, an arm, a leg. He used the rib. What do the ribs do? They protect the heart. Ribs protect the heart. So God made woman with the part of the man that protects the heart. So man should protect the heart of the woman. I get a question a lot from boys that say, but what am I supposed to do when girls ask me? If I say no, then I'm gay, or I'm not really a man. And the answer is, you say that I would never hurt you like that. You are to protect their heart. They were made from the rib, the part that protects the heart. Now, they say that men are the protectors, but so are women. When they talk about a mother bear or a mother cub that they'll go wild to protect their babies, yeah, it's the same thing. Because women were made from the rib, the part that protects the heart. So women are protective as well. So we should be protecting each other's hearts. That's what sex is about, protecting each other's hearts. It is bonding in a way that says we love each other so much that we are going to do anything for each other. And that is not only that we care and love about each other, but it's protecting each other. And I think about that when I think about when Eve took the apple to Adam, and she was tempted by Satan, and she took the apple and she took it to Adam and said, Adam, here, this apple is good, eat of it. What was Adam supposed to do? What should he have done? He should have said no, and he should have protected her. He said, no, we're not supposed to do that. And he didn't protect her. Instead, he ate of the apple as well. So when girls go to guys and they're saying, you know, they're advertising or they're out there saying, yes, take me, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to say no, protect her. If you eat of the apple, what happens? Bad things happen. They got kicked out of the Garden of Eden, right? Yeah. Okay, so that is how we should look at one another, and that's what we have to teach our children, and that's what they need to understand and to hear. I would like to close with the rest of the story on this young girl. What I have here is the evaluation form that she filled out after we came back into the classroom, and I knew that it was hers because all of the rest of them were in by the time I came in. And she filled hers out and set it on the top of the stack. And, you know, after an experience like that, how do you give someone their dignity back? And so here's her evaluation form. It says, what did you learn from this program that might help young people like you? And it says that if you are raped, it's not your fault, and no one will blame you. And even though this didn't really answer the question is how have your feelings changed about sex before marriage? And it says, because you are special. So any one of us has an opportunity to give people their dignity back. Any of you that work with teenagers, that have teenagers, you never know whose life you might touch or whose life you might have an opportunity to help bring back to what God really intended our sexuality to be.